Make your own content. Go ahead and try to make your own website. If you don't know that on the front side because you've tried it, you're going to expect somebody to be this magic bullet to your business. You're going to overspend and you're going to be out of business before you know it because you didn't spend the time yourself becoming a reasonable enough expert to hire the right people. Because you need to hire them to solve a problem, not to put you on.
We're going to hit on that in a little bit.
Okay.
Even more.
Okay.
Can't believe you just took it there, but...
Visceral.
Stay Sharp, episode 39. I'm Jordan Ray, and this is my other half, Rashad Tyler.
Glad to be with you.
Also my co-founder, the podcast co-host, and we are the dynamic duo behind Rare Label. If you didn't already know, it is a visionary agency. We own a visionary agency that helps brands and businesses from strategy to implementation. You're here to go to school on things that we've been through, things that we've learned, things that we deal with all the time. In this conversation, we have a 10-item breakdown for you as a guide to getting started with your brand. So your first timer, you're rebranding, you're refreshing. We have 10 things that we feel like are super important that you got to consider, you got to kind of work through. And we want to just talk through those things and our experience and some examples of those things. So if you're starting a brand, stick around.
Yeah. The best thing about like a conversation like this, at least for us, is we've also had a chance to learn from a lot of other people's experiences, mistakes, and successes. So I'm anxious to share something that's really tactical, something that you can really hold on to, use, rewatch, share with other people so that those that are at the beginning of these journeys, building a brand, building an agency, building whatever business product or otherwise, you can really find utility from the things that are shared in this episode. So I'm excited to talk about it, right?
Yeah. We've had our own ups and downs and successes and mistakes. And we've seen a lot of other people too move through things very gracefully, but also not get their stuff off. And that's not what we're here to do. So we're here to get our idea from 0 to 1 or from our brain out into the world, all of those things. We're going to talk about it. No niceties today. We're going to get right into the conversation, starting with the very first thing. And these are like in no particular order, y'all. But number 1 is to clarify your product, your service offering, which is also known as a unique value proposition.
Yeah. Yeah. And look, at the end of this conversation, you should really be able to like leverage all 10 of these items and be able to press go. Right. So just to kind of make sure we set and frame the intention there, because I want to make sure that even when we get into this first item, you can like have in your mind mapping how to make all of this make sense. So to your point, like the very first thing in order is to understand your unique selling proposition.
Yeah,
right?
this is definitely the first thing that's in order. I think once we get down the list, you'll see one or other can come before something, or some things are going to happen simultaneously. But this is definitely the first thing you have to realize. Okay, you have an idea. That's great. But honestly, y'all, that's not enough. Okay, how do I get my idea out into the world? I need to understand, well, why would people want it anyways? And most businesses they're either solving a problem, rather, and or they're making other people, their customers, clients, so on and so forth, feel better about their lifestyle, better about themselves, because they just add a layer of luxury or a layer of convenience. You know, people are buying peace of mind and things like that. So what problem do you solve? And how does it make the person on the other side feel? Do they feel stronger, smarter, just emotionally more sound? Like there's, 1,000 answers to that question. Yeah.
A lot of the businesses that we're seeing flourish and kind of come to market now are those that have an origin story through the founders or otherwise that stick with you, so that you realize that they have either a unique experience that they can build into the brand story. So when it comes to you, you're like, oh, it helped them. So like one of our favorite companies is AG1, right? It began as Athletic Greens. Like I've been, I guess, a subscriber for over a decade at this point.
You were OG.
Yeah.
And we were subscribed when you put me on, when they had a whole different brand. They were we call them Athletic Greens. Correct. Everyone else we know calls them AG1.
AG1 because of how it's coming to market now. So there's a whole rebrand story that we probably should do some research on and present back to people when they're looking for like an example of like a company's evolution.
Yeah.
But
and Malcolm just started AG1 too.
Congrats. So the head nod is crazy.
We sipping on a little green juice.
But I think the reason that they were able to find like fast fans and fast market fit is because the founder, Chris, you can look it up. His name is, I forget what his real name is, but it's Chris the Kiwi. Because in the email that he would send out, it would always say, hey, Chris the Kiwi here, blah, 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 right? And Chris had some problems of his own that he was looking to solve through that product. So in that exploration, he found and created a concoction. Concoction is so not a word that we want to hear, but he came up with a formula that ends up with 75 or so component parts and probiotics and
vitamins, and nutrients.
Yada, 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 right? And it ends up being able to impact a lot of people. But the way that he was able to come to market and sell it to folks who had skepticism, it was like, hey, I had these physiological problems. So I went through these painstaking lengths to solve that problem for myself. And I'm passing this on to you. In fact, if you want to give it a try, we'll give you these sort of guaranteed benefits. And if you sign up now, made an offer on top of it, if you sign up now, I'll give you this for free, right? Or, get your second bag free, something to this effect. I forget what the initial offer is, but they're still doing a similar thing to get people in. But the point is, he, through his story and through the unique problem that he was looking to solve, which was his own health issue, he ended up creating a unique selling point or a unique selling proposition, right? And there's a lot of different ways that this USP acronym works.
Yeah. And I actually said unique value proposition. It's unique selling proposition. So let me correct myself there. I was thinking MVP, which is
minimum viable product.
Right. Most valuable player. I don't know where unique value proposition, whatever. Unique selling proposition is the correct term. We will sprinkle some marketing and, business language throughout. So we'll try to make sure we're slowing down and defining those things. But if we say like a key term that maybe doesn't resonate with you, take a note and go look it up if we do not get around to defining it, because it is something that you just want to be aware of in your business. Like these are things you'll now start to see way more often. And
look, if that example feels too fancy, and you come from where I'm come from, I'll give you a much easier one. Like if there's 2 rib stores on the same block, you would probably go to the spot that has it would be Sonny's Ribs that's been passed down through the family since 1962. Right. And it's like, oh, yeah, Sonny's been out here. Right.
Yeah. And they always got the, $5 meal plate at lunch or something. And that's the problem they're solving.
Correct. And they're one of their other unique selling points would be Grandma Mabel's famous peach cobbler. Right. These are ways of making sure that you're not just selling ribs or you're not just selling peach cobbler, because it's different to have an idea, but to know what the unique selling point is or unique selling proposition, right?
You'll also hear that defined as the point of difference. Just being able to really state, well, my company does it like this. We know that there's a lot of other ice cream shops out there, but we do vegan ice cream this way.
That's right.
Something to that effect. So,
and you might be wrong at the beginning, but you got to start somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that that's a great example. So number 2 is set your stage. I'll definitely let you elaborate on this, Rashad, but this is, okay, I'm starting a business. I'm really trying to decide if it's going to be a lifestyle company, if this is a small business, or if this has enterprise opportunity. So there's 3 tiers to that. And I think this is something that we're just kind of coming across in our joint venture of 6 years. Now you've been in business for a long time before that, but now we're just realizing, we can start another lifestyle company. We can start a small business, or we can start something that has an enterprise opportunity value.
Yes. Yeah. So just a fast background. I mean, we should probably start to do this at the top. We can kind of run down our scorecard, our report card. So for me, I've started maybe 10 or 12 businesses. A few of them, most of them continue to be operational, but I've sold out of different things and I made a couple of successful exits.
Yeah.
Right.
It's been said that you see business in 3D. So if
I'm
anyone
taking
is new here, and doesn't know what he does as an executive, a marketer, senior designer, all of these things that have come together,
Right.
like you see business in 3D. That's just fascinating to me because I'm like, damn, it's true.
Thank you. I think the other part to layer in is like my most recent place of like learning the most about business is being a part of a venture capital firm. And through that, I'm able to see so many more businesses and so many more entrepreneurs and how they think about things, how they set things up. And I'm able to kick around on different ideas and why things have the more guaranteed feeling of returning money because of the business plan and the business model and the market fit, right? There are all of these little micro moments that come together to create a very special one overall. So with that, you have to consider what type of business you really want to build. And to your point, starting at the end, like the biggest and the one that makes the most money and the one that everybody kind of wants to play in is the enterprise level or enterprise value business, right? Meaning it's a business that you can build. You build all of the systems, you build all of the component parts, right? You know how you sell, you know how you get customers, you know how you retain customers, you know how you hire. Everything's already put together. It's with a bow on it, and you can sell it to somebody else and they can continue to put their money in it and operate it, and it'll continue to grow or potentially scale from there. Mm-hmm. And that's what enterprise value typically is, right?
I don't think that you mentioned that most people that's what
people want, right? People think that they're building that, but they aren't.
Yeah, and that's okay.
And it's okay.
So let's reel it in a little bit. It is okay.
Yes.
All three levels of, and I wouldn't even call them levels. They're just options.
They're just different ways of going about business.
We want to brace ourselves, like when we have an idea, and we want to brace our clients when we're working with people who are going to market with an idea. We want to brace everybody that we can touch with, hey, there's just different ways to think about starting a business.
And just because you start as a lifestyle company does not mean that you can't grow and change the business model so that it can become, it's just not as likely, because an enterprise idea is usually an enterprise idea.
Yeah.
Right.
From the jump.
And it's usually the ones like in Amazon where you need to go raise capital.
Yeah.
You understand the exit before you start to get into that business.
Yes.
And for anybody that's even hesitant on understanding and embracing what the definition of exit is. So when I said I exited a business, I started or founded a business, meaning it had no value, $0. We found or put money in wherever that money comes from, and we created a business that was worth something. Mm-hmm. So meaning I start with $0. I created something that is worth millions, and I participate from my percentage value, my stake, right? How much I own. I exit at that amount, provided that we all sell, or however that particular sale goes. I, in those instances, sold back to the rest of the shareholders.
Yeah.
But anyway, the lifestyle company is the thing that I've built most often or been a part of most often. And a lifestyle company is fundamentally where you have a skill set, you have an offering to the market, and you can be of use to a lot of people. And you don't want to have people just paying you, the individual. So you build a company, an organization, and have that money come in there. So it's for you to give yourself a job through your company, which is the best way to kind of summarize a lifestyle company. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think they're heavily service-based.
Yes.
You know, you're still solving a problem, and you're creating a proper business at that point to make sure this comes down to, you know, taxes at the end of the day and different things like that. So a lifestyle company would be, hey, I have great interest in this thing. I am also somewhat of a service provider or a knowledge base what would you call that? A knowledge-based individual that, has a lot of experience. And so you're doing consulting or something to that effect. So you start a lifestyle company that is, that revolves around consulting or revolves around some creative service, whatever it might be. It could be a lot of different things.
Yeah.
But I think you broke that down well.
Right. And to hurry and button this up, because I know we got a lot to cover. A small business is fundamentally like labor intensive, right? It might be a cleaning business where you have a bunch of people that work for that cleaning business. Can that be an enterprise level thing? Sure. But more often than not, it's a small business, like a small family group of restaurants.
Yeah.
It can be
a very big small business.
Correct.
Small business,
Correct.
Like, again, if you're not familiar, that doesn't mean that it's a small business that is, they just do the little thing over here. Small business can be a big deal.
That's right. And it don't necessarily require some of the other bells and whistles that an enterprise company might need, right? It doesn't necessarily depend on its value through growing. It's about kind of sustaining its own pace and continuing to churn out all of its annual profits to all of the people that are involved.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was that. Definitely make sure that you're aware of what type of business you're getting into. And that is based on your business model, your idea for real, and how you see the future of that business. Number 3 is to define your target audience. Yeah. This is a tough one because I see a lot of people make the mistake of, I want to make this accessible for everybody. Everybody can get their hands on this, or I can do this for anybody. Like, everybody needs this. Yeah. And that's so far from the truth.
We don't even go to church the same way. None of us do.
Absolutely not. So it's like, how do I define that target audience? And then, get into how I'm going to reach them, where they're at, so on and so forth, how I'm really going to solve this problem for them. It takes a lot of, I think this part in particular takes a lot of iteration, because it is also okay to start out with these personas, these client personas, or these customer profiles. Again, this jargon that we're throwing around, you'll start to see this stuff come up more and more as you build your brand. But whether you call them client personas or target audience, client profiles, it's just these made up avatars of people, so Kelly over here makes this much a year, lives in this area of the country, loves to walk her dog at night. So I'm going to make these like flashlights for leashes or something. I don't know. Correct. But that person, it's okay if that target audience iterates, because you basically, it's just a thesis. You just have an idea that needs to be tested, and you need to figure out if it actually makes sense. And if you find out that you're wrong, then you go a different direction. Yeah. Everybody wants to be, it's funny. Every basketball player wants to be LeBron, but you are who or whatever you are. Or every basketball player wanted to be Michael Jordan, right? This is just to say that everybody wants to be the biggest, greatest player of all time. But maybe if you're built like Kyrie, maybe all you can be is the best ball handler of all time. Yeah. Which is no slight to Kyrie. It's just maxing out. So he has to deal with and make sure he repackages his brand and his self-understanding to fit the reality of how he positions in real life into the game. I'll share this about our company. Yeah. Like how we fit in and who we're made for and who we thought we were creating a product for. We have decided and learned rather that we have a few different client profiles. We eventually will have several different customer profiles, but we're not necessarily in the business of helping everybody start a brand. That's right. For instance, like that's one of like the service offerings in our lifestyle company that we have. We are servicing a different clientele via this podcast. We're servicing we're consulting separately. Like you do consulting that I don't do. That's right. Because I help these people over here that are, organizational, like they're trying to figure out how to run their creative business and need some systems to it. You may consult more on the business side, like business models, like setting yourself up for financial success, like X's and O's. So that's something that as you are starting your brand and you're iterating, you're moving through all of these phases, you're kind of launching, you're taking notes, you're testing things. That's why that target audience will change and grow and refine, because you'll see, oh, these products over here, these things are for these types of people because they're really responsive to it. And it may not be who you thought at first. That's okay.
Right.
Over here, I service these people over here with this thing.
Yeah.
I think that, I don't know if this is a good example. I just want to give one more, but I think about like a restaurant, a small business, they have a clientele that they're servicing in the restaurant, but they also have now to Uber Eats and DoorDash and things like that. They have another extension of their business. How do I service the people who always get it ordered? Or, I'm working with the delivery company, right? Like that begins to be
a whole different target that needs a different menu potentially and a different way
experience online. Yes.
Different way to sell it. So. One thing we were talking about last night was that some restaurants that we know were initially doing dinner, and they were doing dinner and brunch, or like dinner and breakfast, the kind of all day restaurants.
Shout out to Bearcat, that's the specific restaurant we were talking about.
And they found a big market fit for breakfast brunch. So get rid of dinner. There's no reason for us to sell the lower margin, more competitive item, right? So once they found a niche or a niche, whichever you guys prefer, they went with the data and the proof and the audience and deliver at a higher level on the thing that's found the most feedback, confirmation. Then you can really blow your thing up, as opposed to being married to your initial thesis. Like, no, we trying to be 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. or 7 a.m. to 9 p.m.
Everybody can come eat all day.
I want them all. We want to,
yeah.
Nah.
Then you build Waffle House.
You build Waffle House.
And you get what you get.
And you get exactly what you get.
Waffle House is great. I'll probably never eat it again. Number 4.
Yeah.
We're on number 4 this is going to be, this one going to be, this is that one, to formalize a name, a logo, and a mission and a vision statement.
Yeah.
The reason why I think that this one is going to might blow some minds, but your name, the name of your company is so important. It's probably more important than the logo. It is more important than the logo, because depending on your business model and depending on the type of company that you're trying to build. So we talked about the lifestyle, the small business, the enterprise. You want to name this in a way that speaks directly to that target audience that you've defined. So don't name something just because you like it. Name something that your customers, your clients, the people who you serve, those people you're solving that problem for, that they're going to like.
Yes.
Name something that's easy to spell. Name something like, check the domain, check all the Instagram handles. Think about this name. Don't just name something because you're like, oh, I like it. Is it going to be called this? Because you'll also run into things. I'm trying to think of an example without throwing anybody under the bus, but okay, I'm going to use this example. I remember a long time ago, I was doing social media consulting, and I believe that someone had reached out to me and they were pretty set on their company's name being Luxury Picnics. And I want to be careful because I do know this person. When I spoke to them back then, and I was like, are you sure? Because Luxury Picnics can't be trademarked. It's not going to be something that is really identifiable. Are you sure you're not thinking about I don't know. It was just, it's too much on the nose for it to be like the name of a company. It's like, that's the description of the company, is that this is a luxury picnic service. Mm-hmm. It's not the name of the business.
Right.
So naming a business is really hard. I know that sometimes you won't be able to come up with that on your own. So you might need to consult with someone. We've had several of our clients, and when I actually sit down and think of it, I'm like, we've actually named people's businesses before. They've trusted us with that. So I go in the bag and I come up with all of these examples. Okay, this is what I'm thinking. This is how we can spell it. Domains available, all of these checkdowns. Mm-hmm. Like, people have trusted us to name their businesses, which is insane.
Yeah.
But sometimes you need that assistance, and sometimes you don't.
Yeah. So I think, to your point, when we were able to collaborate with those folks to help them name their businesses, once they got to the title, it felt like it was home for them, which is the same reason that people try to name businesses after themselves, because they want it to feel personal. But there's a way for it to feel personal without it being your name, or being too simple, or not being able to be trademarked. So I think there's also, just to add context to this, because everything you said is just on the money, but the most important thing to do is to find that you can protect it. Right. But most of those other things you can't get someone to want to be excited about it if they don't feel connected to it first. Mm-hmm. But we know, just from a business standpoint, it needs to be protected.
The next thing would be your logo. So still in the same category of, just formalizing the likeness.
You know what, though? You mentioned earlier in this about mission vision. Mm-hmm. Did we cover that part?
We're about to, but we can do it now.
Sorry, I may be skipping around.
The logo, real quick, is, we could talk about this all day, so let's make it short. But your logo is the most important thing, and also like not important at all, but it's most important. But don't trip about it,
because it can always change. You can always update the logo.
Yeah,
but you may have other rationale.
I just want to share one thing I feel I've seen so many people do time after time, is to really stress a lot about what their logo looks like, or not put in their own research to figure out, well, what do other logos look like in this industry, in this trade or field, that are similar to like where I want to go, and just doing your research, because these luxury logos for these designer brands look very different than some of the logos that we see when we shop at Rouse's grocery store, or, the farmer's market. Like, it's just different. It's because it's serving a different person. And so if you're not connecting who my target audience is to what type of logo they want to see in their house, that's different. That's a big reason too, a personal story for the agency. Like, we are redoing our candle packaging, because after more and more research, we found the candles are great. The product is going to be great, but the packaging isn't right, because we've changed our mind and iterated on how we want to emphasize the packaging, whether we want to emphasize the scent of the candle, the name of the brand that produced or, developed the candle. Mm-hmm. So look, we're going to throw a whole bunch of boxes away or recycle them and never going to use them. We got everything printed. It's all ready to go. Could ship it to you today. Mm-hmm. But we've decided the logo isn't right on the packaging. It is what it is.
Right.
So mission and vision.
Mission and vision. The mission, and I think a lot of people, you can Google this stuff. This is easy, but I think people don't emphasize enough how important it is to actually write it down. So everything we're talking about, when we want to kind of create this bullet list, so that we'll find that more of our friends and more of the people that we work with or have a chance to work with maybe in the future will take a real tasking to organizing all of these specific things. But the mission is very much the present version of you explaining to people what you're about, what you're doing, what you're after, right? Why you're here.
What I really resonated with, I heard this somewhere, was your mission statement is why you wake up every day as a founder to do this thing. Like
every day.
It's that, it's micro.
Yeah.
It's like, this is why I get up
Very
every
present.
single day.
That's right. And then the vision is really about the aspiration. Where do you want to go? Where is this going in the future? Like, why should this exist? It's really, really big. And it should be your most ambitious reason for doing this. So if you were, back to like Athletic Greens, like maybe the vision is creating sustainable health solutions for the entire world. Or it might have a quantifiable number to that, like shifting, the physical insurance for humans by 70% in 2 years or 20 years or whatever.
Yeah.
Right.
I like Apple's is one of the best where, I mean, their vision statement has changed at this point, but they originally set out to have a computer in every home. Right. Every home. Like
every home.
Quantifiable, like a very large number of, but think about before computers were even a thing.
In
for them
1984
to go
art. Yeah. So it changes how you build every system, the idea that it needs to be portable, that there needs to be a retail plan. It bakes in all of the other needs to happen because they are very clear about the vision. That's exactly right. That's a great example.
I love that one.
Yeah.
Number 5 is to create a go-to-market strategy. This is another term, ChatGPT, Google, but we'll explain a little bit more on what go-to-market is. But that's essentially taking your product or your service you're offering and putting it into the world. Okay, now we got to launch this thing. We got to ship this thing. And there's a lot of long-term planning that goes into this. Like, you really need to understand, I'm not in this go-to-market strategy. Just think about the next 30, 45 days. You got to be thinking about, I have this runway in front of me, and to get something into the market for the first time is going to take some time. So we're talking at least a 12-month roadmap and just settling with yourself. Okay, what does that look like for what I want to do? That's
right. Most things that we end up launching on this end, we're 12 is absolutely the conservative number. We want to be 18 to 24, if not 5 years, right? We want to know what it's going to take from introducing it to like, all right, here's our correction period as we get different feedback, because we want to set up different experiments along the way that can help cure us of the mistakes that we had in our thesis. Right? We just got an idea. We think that this is going to happen. We think these are the people. We think these are the acquisition channels. We think this is the way to acquire them on these acquisition channels. And what if we're all the way wrong? So we need to make sure that we build in time to run those experiments and understand that we have a financial runway, a time commitment to getting it figured out, so that if we are introducing something, we don't run out of money, run out of resources, run out of the ability to complete the experiment before we get the results back. And I think that's the hardest thing for folks, because they just want to, the amount of times I hear people say, I just want to put it out. It's getting, the older I get, the more frustrating it gets, because I know that those people and those products and those ideas deserve better.
Yeah, I was listening to I have like so much, because I want to ask you some questions too.
Yeah.
This is great, y'all. So listen up. I was listening to a podcast this morning, and I'm not sure if you've heard this terminology or this like concept where the people who are in a rush to like, well, I'm willing to work 40 hours a week on this, 80 hours a week for however long. Like, the more work and the faster you try to go, like the more limiting sometimes the plan becomes. You got to be able to say, well, no, I can do this over the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years. Like, that is sustainability. So approaching your go-to-market strategy, your business plan with I'm going to figure out how to sustain this for a certain amount of time, because like there's this gap between you launching something for the most part, especially as a small business, a first-time brand. We're not talking about companies that, and we're not necessarily, like, our entire conversation isn't relegated to like enterprise opportunities. Like, that's not what we're saying. So at a certain level, there is this gap between the go-to-market and the launch and just the introduction to the adoption, like your customers and your clients actually adopting what you're doing. So how long does that take? Some things take maybe just a few months. Some things take years. Like there's like, think about it from this perspective. There's been songs that we're like, oh, that came out 2-3 years ago. And it's just now song of the summer or whatever. So how long is it going to take for people to adopt this? Like sometimes you don't know. Sometimes you don't know.
And your key role as the founder of a company or the producer of a product is to give it the maximum opportunity for spontaneity, right? Because that's what happens. Like this thing happens on TikTok, this thing happens over here, and now all of a sudden there's like a story and a momentum that starts to build behind a product, a song. It could be anything, right? So you want to give yourself a chance for the spark to happen. Like we have a client that went to Shark Tank recently and, like fought through. Yeah. Congrats to
Dawn.
Yeah. To Dawn. Yeah. But there was a moment there where, I'm going like, Dawn, I don't know if I think you should try something else different here. And she's like, well, I'm the CEO here and I have this is my goal. This is what I'm going to do. And she stuck to it because she knew that she was going to be in it for years. Right. So she wasn't distracted by a short-term momentary bump or even understanding what things would hinder or harm her from getting to market to begin with, because she needed to start her experiment. She didn't need to get it perfect. She needed to get the MVP clearly defined and start again that test to find her market. And that clarity is oftentimes the difference.
Yeah, she was a joy to work with because she knew the decisions that she needed to make as a CEO. And she was very clear about her boundaries and when she was going to put her foot down. And then when she was going to collaborate with us as a creative agency to help her to, develop her brand assets, which is literally segueing into the next thing. But side note, a couple weeks before their brand identity was due, we were to turn it into them. We were like, we think the logo needs to be this. And we showed them a completely different logo system.
Whole different path.
That we still to this day believe is the better of we think that it's better than the one that the company ended up going with. The one that the company we designed it. It's not bad, but so those are just moments that I'm like, any question or anything that you might be wondering watching this, I'm like, we've been through it. We dealt with it. We changed it. We iterated it. We lost. We won. It went well, from the flops to the, the victories. So
that's right.
That's crazy. That's wild. All right. We're halfway through. Grab a sip of water or something and get ready for number 6, which is building a brand identity.
Yeah.
And
congratulations.
Creating your assets.
Now you got to talk to people like us or do it yourself.
Because this isn't the thing that you do first.
No.
It shouldn't be.
No.
I don't care about the colors. Like Rashad and I are literally working on a new business right now. He asked me this morning, what do you think about the logo? I said, I don't give a about that logo. I'm trying to figure out the business model.
That's right.
I'm really focused because what I'm doing is not for vanity. I have a real problem that I'm going to solve for real people. For the first time, it's not knowledge based either. It's not service based. It's very much product based. It's very much solving a problem. And I'm like, I really don't care what the logo is going to look like because we design for a living too. So the logo is going to be fine. I need to worry about some other stuff right now. So we've talked about on the podcast before, doing it yourself, depending on where you're at in your journey, what type of runway and skills or marketing knowledge or just whatever that you do or don't have. You either can do it yourself or you can have it done for you, right? You can hire an agency or designer and work with someone else to help you bring that vision to life. That's not always doable.
That's right.
So I'll link that podcast too in the description. So you can go see that kind of DIY brand or done for you. We talked about that.
Yeah.
Do you have any other notes on?
I think the reason the DIY piece is so important is because you need to know what you need. So when we interact with or work with like first time entrepreneurs or people who are getting into their very first businesses, we're oftentimes kind of giving them a here's what's done typically in this space. And it's fantastic for you when everybody you hire should be teaching you something, right? But the more of a knowledge expert you are, the more they need to know to be valuable.
Say that 2 times.
So if you can ask a more intelligent question, you'll get a more seasoned vendor. The reason we push people to like, spend some time inside of Photoshop, spend some time on Instagram, make your own content at first, right? We can always archive this stuff. Go ahead and try to make your own website. Create your own, like if you don't understand the sales process, sales funnels, if you don't understand some of the reasons that people have trouble at YouTube or at Instagram or at Facebook or at TikTok, if you don't know that on the front side because you've tried it, you're going to expect somebody to be this magic bullet to your business. You're going to overspend and you're going to be out of business before you know it because you didn't spend the time yourself becoming a reasonable enough expert or at least smart enough to ask intelligent enough questions to hire the right people. Because you need to hire them to solve a problem, not to put you on.
And we have situation after situation where even we've been hired to do things and solve a problem. So we're trying to solve a problem and that business is not ours.
Right.
And we're trying to eloquently share with the business owner that we're working with, you actually need to figure out how to know enough in this area so you can tell us like what you actually need. And
we're asking, I guess you guys get a sense of my personality. A lot of times I am strongly urging you to deploy a thing and you don't understand why it's important. And for me to understand more about your business than you means that I should be the CEO of your business, and that's bad for you. There's no agency that should know more about your business than you know about your business, because your job as the founder and or CEO is how it actually works so that you're more able to understand the component parts necessary to make it grow.
We're going to hit on that in a little bit.
Okay.
Even more.
Okay.
Can't believe you just took it there, but.
Visceral.
All right, let's move to number 7. Select your social media platforms. That's going to be big because we can't get around content at this point. But I think that there are strategic ways where you don't have to overwhelm yourself and feel like you got to be doing everything on every platform when you first start out.
That's
right. I
right.
think that could be just extremely overwhelming. So you're deciding between how you want to show up on Instagram or TikTok, YouTube, LinkedIn. You have, what are the other social media? I don't know if email or kind of counts as like a social, it's a platform. Right. It's its own thing.
It's a channel for sure, but.
Yeah, it's got a bit of a different strategy to it, but I'm trying to think if I left anything else on the table. But those are kind of like the main ones. I would definitely, to the previous point, you got to figure out how much you need to know about certain things to know, well, I need to be present on Instagram in this type of way, but I really need to be doing this over here on TikTok, or I really need to be, YouTube is actually the best platform for my business model, my go-to-market strategy, like all of these things. That's why we have this list. And deciding like, actually, even though Instagram feels most comfortable to me, right, I really need to be over here. It may not be
best for me to go in.
Yeah. I might need to be on LinkedIn. I might need to figure out how to do blog and SEO or whatever.
Right. So. Because I think at the end of the day, you have to understand that your choice about social media and all the rest of those decisions are dependent on you understanding primarily that they are customer acquisition channels. So you need to go where the people that will buy your thing are, and then get good at that channel, right? Our thing is to make sure that we understand how we need to move for this. So that's why for what we do. So that's why we're here, right? We understand that most people want to want to get a dip and understanding to the personalities that they might be working with and the expertise of the people that they're hiring to do different jobs. And so instead of us sending just our capabilities deck and all of those different things, you get a chance to understand Rashad's competence because he has 50 hours of content available for you to get a sense.
Yeah.
Right. And some of the theses or some of the ideas or concepts or experiences, you can literally Google against or search against our already distributed content. And that's the right acquisition channel for us, or at least confirmation channel for us. Right. So I'm giving you a highlight into, or at least an insight into how we're looking at it for our agency, but that may not pair over well with a product.
Yeah.
Because how do you go to YouTube with a product?
Mm-hmm.
You got to do that entirely different. Now you got to do lifestyle content that has people like if you were making performance gear or apparel, you would need people dancing in it or playing basketball in it or whatever it is. And how do you, who are the people, right? Where are they doing it at? So it's all of those different things from a storytelling standpoint that's important, but you may need video, but it may not also need to be at YouTube. It's a lot of parts to it, but I think I'm creating enough confusion for everyone to accept that you have to figure out what customer acquisition looks like. And those channels require their own expertise and their own experiments in order for you and the clients to connect.
So Rashad just segued into number 8, which is customer acquisition cost, AKA, or acronym is CAC.
Yeah.
You'll see this a lot. Again, if you're not familiar with this term and you are a business owner or you are about to start a business, look it up, get very comfortable with this customer acquisition cost situation and figure out what might that look for you? What do you need to be prepared for? One thing I think we should hit on as we're in number 8 right now, we just can kind of wrap up number 8, is loss leaders and how certain efforts, say on social media, on certain social media platforms, may be a loss leader for your business, or they may be, they might be something that breaks even, but not everything makes money. So for instance, we started YouTube podcast and someone actually shared something with me the other day that they understood that we started our podcast like last year or something. Mm-hmm. And I was like, we actually started our podcast in 2020. Mm-hmm. Like we had our first iteration of it. Yes. First in 2020. Test. We've always been very clear that we weren't starting a podcast to make money. We never thought, we know we're going to make this podcast because the content is helpful to a certain group of people, a certain audience. And we want that to then return in other ways. So that's leads, that's, just more incoming, right? The deal flow, different things like that. And we do want to start to build that community on YouTube and figure out what that looks like for us. Mm-hmm. So loss leader, I don't know if you have any drops about that.
And no disrespect to how other people might be creating entertainment-based content that's intended for you to get to the ad revenue side of this. By and large, the most dominant players are not using YouTube content for the AdSense revenue or Google Ads revenue. They're not. Most people are using it for to spread their information and for customer acquisition. Mm-hmm. And to your point about like other loss leader types, right? Because this is just like a content strategy piece of it, right? We're explaining that content will be costly potentially and how to position it inside of your mind and it's on your balance or your scorecard, how to think about the spending on it, like the investment. The other part to that though is you may need to do live events. You may need to have like another type of giveaway. You might need to do in-stores. You might need to do ambassador campaigns, influencer campaigns, right? These might be exercises or at least like small products that you use to get yourself into a certain niche. And then because you gave away $5 a product, you get people into a buying cycle where now you have a customer lifetime value, right? Or LTV is what it's typically referred to, where they're spending $100, $200 with you before they opt out, before they leave you. Or maybe the lifetime value, maybe it's $5. Maybe you make somebody become a customer for $5 and then they stay with you and their lifetime value is $1,000. Who knows? But you should do the math, but realize that you're going to have to give something in order to get.
Absolutely. Number 9 is to lean into your responsibility as a founder. And this comes with a lot. It's ongoing management. It's knowing your systems from A to Z. It is also accepting that learning needs to be a regular experience.
Yeah.
Because you're not going to know everything. And oftentimes, you are doing things for the first time. Like,
that's right.
And that's going to be something that's ever occurring. So I think the piece that I want to hit on the most, and we've already kind of said this, so we're just doubling down on this point, is knowing your processes from A to Z. And that goes from the creative to the marketing to the sales to the back end and the administration, paperwork and all of those things. Knowing what it is that your business needs. So that way, when you do start to delegate and you're handing off things or you're hiring contractors to kind of come in and, help take you to that next level, you're putting them on as much as they're putting you on. So yeah, like just that ongoing like learning experience and being down to be in the weeds of learning the back end of your website. Yeah. So you're not always tailored to someone coming fix it for you.
That's right. That's exactly right. I would also just add, because that was very well put, that the objective is for you to consistently iterate and improve as opposed to burn it down. It don't work. It's not good. No, it's just not right yet. And if you can put that ethos inside of everybody in your company, including how you exercise that yourself, you're just going to get better, because that's how you win over 2, 3, 5, 10, 15, 20 years. It's not, this don't work, this ain't the business. It was your expectation that it was going to be fast or easy that's forcing you to believe that there's something wrong. It's like, no, you just got the returns on an experiment and it just told you that there's something off. So find it, fix it, iterate, redeploy, right? Continue to do that until you find the click. Once you find the click, go on to the next one, right? It's not that hard.
Number 10, last but not least, is to understand that no one is going to care like you care. No one that you hire, no one that you work with, maybe even your co-founder. I mean, I would hope. Y'all need to have an agreement for that. So I definitely want to share with you that it is something that can feel, can put you on an island starting a business, and that like nobody really understands, or I don't even understand. Like, I'm confused. I don't know who to ask. Like, there's a limited sometimes community for first time business owners to really get the actual support that they need.
That's right.
Even though all of these communities say that they help and foster, like, I haven't had a community that really has helped me. I'm gonna be honest with you. Maybe a few people, but not a community. And to know that no one else cares means that everything falls on you. Everything is ultimately your decision to make. Like, you have to know, and you've got to just be okay with making the wrong decision sometimes, and be okay with stalling if you don't have the right decision, and being okay with saying, you know what, I don't know right now, but I'm going to go find out, so on and so forth. So just nodding that no one's going to care like you.
Yeah. Yeah. Can't add anything to that, only hope that you hear the humility in that, and that it's no reason for you to fight or be discouraged because you're getting different feedback than the one that you just shared, because it's to be expected. Yeah. Yeah.
Basically, you on your own.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, like, you can find community, right? It's going to take a lot of effort. Mm-hmm. And most of the community, though, will be in the form of books. It'll be in the form of pods. It'll be in the form of different ways that you can acquire information through reading or otherwise.
Yeah. Thank you for watching another episode of Stay Sharp, or maybe this was your first episode of Stay Sharp. You've made it to the end of our 10-item breakdown to start a brand. Definitely hit that like, comment, and subscribe button. Do one of the three, all three. We definitely want to hear from you all and let us know how we're doing. Hit us up, rarelabel.com, info@rarelabel, all of the things.
Yeah.
We're glad that you were here. And until next time, stay sharp.
Stay sharp.